Owning a cargo ship is a bet where a single vessel can cost $150 million, burn $50,000 of fuel a day, and still lose money on half its voyages. In 2021, freight rates for a container box hit $20,000. By 2023, that same route paid under $1,500. One good year built fortunes, the next erased them. So why do the world's richest families keep buying steel that bleeds cash? The answer starts with the size of that opening bet. Before a single container slides into a hold, an owner has already gambled a fortune. A new Neo-Panamax container ship, the giant workhorse of modern trade, can cost between $150 and $200 million. That is the price of steel that has never earned a cent, never signed a contract, never proven it can make money at all. Consider the physical scale behind that number. A Neo-Panamax vessel stretches roughly 366 meters long and 51 meters wide, sized precisely to fit the expanded Panama Canal locks that opened in June 2016. It can stack over 14,000 20-foot containers, and building one takes a shipyard like South Korea's Hyundai Heavy or China's COSCO around 12 to 18 months of continuous work, with tens of thousands of tons of steel plate cut, welded, and painted before the hull ever touches water. And that figure is not even the most expensive corner of the market. A large bulk carrier, the plainer cousin hauling iron ore, coal, and grain, runs $50 to $60 million new. Cheaper, but still a fortune that must claw itself back one voyage at a time. Then there is the secondhand market, where prices swing wildly with the shipping cycle. Buy a used vessel at the top of a boom and you overpay by tens of millions. Buy the same ship in a slump and you steal it for a fraction of its value. The swings are not hypothetical. A 5-year-old capsized bulker that traded for around $60 million in 2008 could be bought for barely $20 million by 2016, when the Baltic Dry Index scraped its all-time low of 290 in February of that year. The largest and most expensive vessels of all, the ultra-large container vessels carrying more than 24,000 boxes, such as the MSC Irina delivered in 2023, can command prices approaching $250 million, pushing even the newest Neo-Panamax hulls into the mid-range of the market almost the moment they launch. That gap is exactly why almost nobody pays cash. Tying up $200 million in one hull is madness when the market can halve overnight. Instead, owners turn to banks, and the banks take the risk alongside them. That risk gets shared through a ship mortgage, which looks like the loan on a house, only with far more zeros. These mortgages often cover 60 to 70% of a vessel's value, with the owner putting down the rest. The terms typically stretch across 10 to 15 years, meaning the ship must keep earning through booms and busts just to service the debt. For decades, German KG funds pooled money from thousands of ordinary investors to buy ships, while bank syndicates spread the enormous loans across multiple lenders so no single institution drowned when a fleet went under. When the 2008 crisis hit, that system nearly collapsed. HSH Nordbank, once the world's largest ship financing bank with a portfolio near 30 billion euros, was crushed by defaults and eventually sold in 2018 for just over 1 billion euros, rebranded as Hamburg Commercial Bank. The German KG model, which had funded roughly a third of the global container fleet at its peak, saw hundreds of funds go bankrupt between 2009 and 2015, wiping out the savings of small investors who had been sold shipping as a safe, tax-efficient bet. Today, the biggest ship lenders are increasingly Asian, with China's leasing arms like ICBC Leasing and Bank of Communications Financial Leasing controlling fleets worth tens of billions of dollars. Servicing that decade-long debt only works if the ship keeps moving, and moving means burning fuel. Fuel is the single largest operating cost of running a cargo ship, and it swings brutally with the oil markets. An owner can budget everything else to the dollar, then watch a spike in crude blow the year's projections apart. The numbers are almost hard to believe. A large ship at full speed burns 150 to 250 tons of fuel every single day. Not per voyage, per day. VLSFO, the low-sulfur bunker fuel most of these vessels now use, has traded near $600 to $700 per ton. The daily fuel bill can exceed $50,000 to $100,000, an amount that vanishes into the sea before the cargo has even reached port. This is why owners embraced slow steaming after 2008, dropping cruising speeds from around 24 knots to 18 or even 16. Because fuel consumption rises with roughly the cube of speed, shaving just a few knots can cut daily burn by 30 to 40%, turning a voyage that once took 20 days into one lasting 28, but saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. The rules tightened further on January 1st, 2020, when the International Maritime Organization's IMO 2020 regulation slashed the allowed sulfur content in marine fuel from 3.5% to 0.5%, forcing owners to either buy the pricier VLSFO or install exhaust scrubbers costing $2 to $6 million per ship. With that much money pouring out of the engines, you might expect an army of people running the ship. There is not. A skeleton crew of about 20 operates a vessel worth 9 figures, carrying goods worth hundreds of millions more. It is one of the strangest ratios in all of industry. That lean crew usually numbers 20 to 25 seafarers, and the pay gap is stark. The senior officers, the ones with the licenses and the responsibility, can earn $8,000 to $12,000 a month. The ratings, the ordinary sailors who scrub, paint, and keep the machinery alive, earn far less. All of them share the same isolation, serving contracts that run 4 to 9 months at sea, cut off from home and family for the better part of a year. Roughly 1.9 million seafarers crew the world merchant fleet, and the largest single source is the Philippines, supplying around a quarter of them, followed by Indonesia, China, and India. During the pandemic, this crew system nearly broke. At the peak of the crew change crisis in September 2020, an estimated 400,000 seafarers were trapped aboard ships past the end of their contracts, some stuck at sea for 17 months straight, unable to disembark because ports refused to let them ashore. Keeping those crews and ships legal costs even more, and the hidden fees stack up before a dollar of profit appears. Insurance, classification, and certification are not optional. They are the price of being allowed to sail at all. Every serious vessel carries 2 shields. Hull insurance covers physical damage to the ship itself, while P&I insurance covers liability, the pollution, injuries, and cargo claims that can bankrupt an owner in a single accident. On top of that comes dry docking, the mandatory overhaul every 5 years where the ship is hauled out and inspected inch by inch. That alone costs millions. And none of it happens without the class societies, organizations like DNV and Lloyd's Register, who certify that a ship is seaworthy. Lose their approval, and the ship is worthless steel. The P&I cover is not sold by ordinary insurers, but by mutual clubs owned by the shipowners themselves, 13 of which form the international group of P&I clubs, together insuring about 90% of the world's ocean-going tonnage. Their pooled cover can reach into the billions per incident, a scale demonstrated when the Ever Given grounding triggered claims that the Suez Canal Authority initially valued at $916 million. Dry docking a large container ship can keep it out of service for 1 to 2 weeks and cost $2 to $5 million once cleaning, hull painting, propeller polishing, and steel repairs are added up, all while the vessel earns nothing. Even a perfectly insured, certified ship still has to pay to arrive anywhere and to take the shortcuts between oceans. Port fees and canal tolls tax every arrival and every passage, nibbling away at margins call after call. The canals are the most dramatic bite. A large container ship can pay more than $500,000 just to transit the Panama Canal, a single crossing that costs as much as a small house. Suez Canal tolls run into the hundreds of thousands per passage as well, and the ports are no bargain. Port dues, pilotage to guide the ship in, and the tugs that nudge it against the quay add tens of thousands of dollars to every call. The ship pays simply to show up. The Panama Canal's tolls climbed even higher during the 2023 drought, when Gatun Lake fell so low that the authority slashed daily transits from around 36 to as few as 22 by late 2023, and desperate operators bid over $2 million in a single auction just to jump the queue. The Suez route tells its own story. After the Ever Given, and then again after Houthi missile attacks began in late 2023, many carriers abandoned the canal entirely, sailing the long way around the Cape of Good Hope and adding roughly 10 days and 3,500 nautical miles to an Asia to Europe voyage. After absorbing all those costs, the owner finally has to make it back, and there are 2 ways. An owner earns money either by carrying cargo under freight contracts or by chartering the whole ship out to someone else. These arrangements come in distinct flavors. A time charter pays a daily rate for the entire vessel, handing control to a charterer for months or years while the owner still crews and maintains it. A voyage charter is narrower, paying per cargo carried from one port to another, with the owner covering the running costs. And then there is the bareboat charter, the most hands-off, where the ship is leased out with no crew and no involvement, like renting an empty apartment and letting the tenant furnish it. Whichever path an owner chooses, the rate they get paid is where fortunes are made and destroyed. Charter rates are the volatile heartbeat of this business, and they move with a violence that would terrify any normal investor. One figure captures this chaos for the bulk trade, the Baltic Dry Index. It tracks the cost of shipping dry bulk cargo around the world, and it is one of the most brutally honest gauges of the global economy. In 2008, the index stood above 11,000. Within months, as the financial crisis strangled trade, it crashed to under 700, a collapse of more than 90%. In practical terms, daily charter rates can swing from $5,000 to over $100,000, meaning the same ship can be a money printer one year and a millstone the next. The index is compiled every business day by the Baltic Exchange in London, an institution founded in 1744 and now owned by the Singapore Exchange since 2016, drawing on quotes from a panel of shipbrokers who assess routes for Capesize, Panamax, Supramax, and Handysize vessels. Its all-time high of 11,793 came on May 20th, 2008. Less than 7 months later, on December 5th, 2008, it bottomed at 663, one of the steepest and fastest destructions of value ever recorded in a major market. If 2008 showed how far rates could fall, 2021 showed how obscenely high they could climb. The pandemic boom turned ordinary shipowners into billionaires almost overnight for reasons no spreadsheet had predicted. The world came out of lockdowns starved for goods, and the ports could not cope. Container spot rates rocketed to around $20,000 per 40-foot box, roughly 10 times their normal level. Maersk, the Danish shipping giant, posted record profits exceeding $18 billion in a single year. And the cruel engine behind those profits was chaos itself. Pandemic congestion trapped ships waiting for weeks outside jammed ports, and every ship stuck at anchor was a ship not carrying cargo, which starved supply and drove rates higher still. Delay became the most profitable thing that could happen. At the height of the crisis in January 2022, more than 100 container ships sat anchored off the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, some waiting 3 weeks or longer for a berth. The Shanghai Containerized Freight Index, near 800 points in early 2020, exploded past 5,000 by the start of 2022. Rivals prospered too. Germany's Hapag-Lloyd and Israel's Zim posted their best results in history, and Zim, which had nearly gone bankrupt years earlier, paid out billions in dividends to shareholders who had bought its stock for pennies. Yet even in that golden year, a quieter drain never stopped working against every owner. The empty return voyage is the silent killer of profits, the problem nobody puts on a brochure but everybody pays for. Global trade does not flow evenly. Ships often sail one leg fully loaded and return nearly empty because the world buys far more from some places than it sells back. Someone still has to move those empty steel boxes back to where they are needed. Repositioning empty containers costs the industry billions of dollars every year, a colossal expense to shuffle nothing across oceans. These trade imbalances mean cargo flows heavily in one direction, and the return trip is often a fuel-guzzling waste. The imbalance is starkest on the Trans-Pacific route, where the United States imports vastly more from Asia than it ships back, so that in some months as many as 7 out of 10 containers leaving American ports for China travel completely empty. During the 2021 boom, the problem grew so acute that carriers rushed empties back to Asia rather than wait to fill them with lower-value U.S. exports like soybeans and scrap paper, leaving American farmers unable to book space for their own goods even as the ships sailed out hollow. That built-in inefficiency is survivable when rates are high. It becomes lethal when the market turns, because when global trade cools, the fixed costs keep bleeding while the revenue vanishes. The calm-down from the boom was savage. By 2023, major routes had collapsed to below $1,500 per box, a drop of more than 80% from the 2021 peaks. But here is the trap that catches the overconfident. The costs do not fall with the rates. The owner still owes the crew wages, still buys the fuel, still pays the insurance premiums, and still makes the loan payment to the bank every month, whether the ship earns $20,000 or nothing. Revenue is a roller coaster. Costs are a straight line marching upward, and they do not care that the market died. As if that were not enough, a single accident on the far side of the planet can rewrite an owner's entire year. One blocked choke point proved just how fragile the system really is. In March 2021, an enormous container ship called the Ever Given wedged itself sideways across the Suez Canal and blocked it completely for 6 days. 6 days in one of the most important waterways on Earth, where roughly $9 billion in trade passes through every single day. Hundreds of ships piled up at both ends, and the effects did not stop when the vessel was freed. The delays cascaded into port congestion around the world and pushed rates even higher, a single stuck ship reshaping the finances of an entire industry for months. Living with that unpredictability demands a particular mindset, the one thing that separates the survivors from the wreckage. The owners who last treat shipping not as a steady business, but as a cyclical game, buying low and scrapping ships when the markets die. When rates collapse and a ship can no longer earn its keep, its final value is the metal it is made of. Owners scrap old vessels for their steel value in downturns, turning a dying asset into cash before it drags them under. Most of these giants meet their end on the beaches of Alang in India and Chattagram in Bangladesh, where they are run aground at full speed and torn apart by hand. It is grim, dangerous work, and it is the final chapter for nearly every ship. The great skill is timing. Buying vessels cheap in a slump and selling or scrapping them when the cycle turns is what separates the winners from the bankruptcies. Alang alone handles roughly half the world's ship recycling across its more than 150 plots, employing tens of thousands of workers who earn only a few dollars a day dismantling hulls with cutting torches and bare muscle. Scrap values are quoted in dollars per light displacement ton, and in strong years, yards in the Indian subcontinent have paid $400 to $600 per ton, meaning a large vessel with 40,000 tons of steel can fetch well over $20 million just to be destroyed. The human cost is brutal. Safety monitors have documented dozens of deaths a year from falls, explosions, and toxic exposure, and the 2009 Hong Kong Convention, aimed at cleaning up the trade, only entered into force in June 2025. Step back from the wreckage and the beaches, and the math finally explains the madness. Why shipping rewards the patient and destroys the overleveraged. Why the same industry that ruins fools also mints dynasties. Consider the scale. Around 90% of everything the world trades moves by sea. Over 50,000 merchant ships are crossing the oceans right now, carrying the goods that fill every store and home. This is not a niche gamble. It is the circulatory system of civilization. And within it, one truly profitable year can generate enough cash to carry an owner through several years of losses, which is precisely why the patient thrive and the impatient, drowning in debt, do not. So the richest families keep buying steel that bleeds cash because they understand the cycle, and they can afford to wait for it to turn. They are not betting on next quarter. They are betting on the next decade. That is the whole secret. Steel, fat, prints, and burns money. The cargo ship is neither a good business nor a bad one. It is a mirror held up to the world economy, brutal in the busts and dazzling in the booms, rewarding only those with the nerve and the cash to ride both. Master the cycle and the sea makes you rich. Misread it and it swallows you whole. If you enjoyed this voyage into the numbers, consider subscribing so you never miss the next lore film breakdown.